In the far east of Asia lies the land of peace and morning calm. During their 5,000 years of history, Koreans have been known as a peace-loving nation, as is symbolically represented by the rising sun on the East Sea. But they had to suffer the tragedy of a bloody fratricidal war half a century ago. At dawn on June 25th in 1950, North Korean Communist invaders mounted a surprise attack against the South across the 38th parallel with the sinister purpose of communizing the entire Korean peninsula. The 190,000-strong North Korean aggressors, armed with 380 Soviet-made tanks, 2,000 artillery pieces, 200 fighters, and 30 battleships, swept away the South without warning. The South Korean army of 110,000 effectives were poorly armed with 91 field guns, 600 trench mortars, and 22 training planes. However, South Korean soldiers put up a plucky defense against the enemy, but in vain. In a moment, battlefronts were broken through by the invaders. South Korean troops, less prepared for the war, had no choice but to retreat. In 3 days, the capital city of Seoul fell to the Communist invaders, and in less than 6 weeks, almost 90% of the South Korean territory was occupied. South Korean soldiers had to retreat as far as the Nakdong River, a lifeline on which the survival of this country depended. On June 27, 1950, the United Nations Security Council members gathered to adopt a resolution that they will repel the communist provocation and restore peace and security on the Korean peninsula. Under the resolution, 16 UN member countries such as the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, France, Thailand, Canada, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Belgium, Colombia, Greece, Luxembourg, Turkey, the Philippines, Ethiopia, the Republic of South Africa dispatched their troops to help the South. Other countries including Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Italy, and India sent their medical teams. Many other nations also provided food and medicine. On July 1st, the UN Allied forces began to land, along with a lot of combat equipments. The combined forces of South Korea and the United Nations managed to land their troops at Incheon Port on September 15th, a significant occasion to reverse the war situation. On September 28th, the South Korean troops recaptured Seoul. Most of the North Korean invaders took to flight, and some of them, more than 10,000, were held captive. On October 1st, 1950, South Korean and the UN troops finally crossed the 38th parallel and continued to advance to the north. On October 19th, they occupied the North Korean capital city of Pyongyang and proceeded to march northward to the Yalu River. At last, the moment our soldiers saw the longest river in Korea, they thought that the day of national reunification was now so far off, they were all in tears. On the northern side of the river, however, there were a countless number of Chinese troops waiting for an order to attack. On November 25th, the Chinese troops crossed the river. Again, the situation was reversed. The so-called human sea tactics dealt a serious blow on the South Korean and the UN Allied forces. A huge wave of men began to rush southward. The 1 million strong Chinese army launched a massive attack against the Allied forces. They fiercely rushed to the south. It's really horrible to see them coming like a mountain of a wave. On January 4th, 1951, we had the shame to desert Seoul again. We call it January 4th Retreat. South Korean and the UN Allied forces decided to build a strong defense line connecting Pyeongtaek, Wonju, Yeongwol, and Samcheon. They realigned their combat units and launched a massive counterattack to gain back Seoul on March 14, 1951, and built a battle line across the 38th parallel, linking Cheoran and Kumhwang. The Korean War came to a state of lull when the negotiations for armistice began in July 1951. But on the frontline areas, small but fierce fightings were going on to capture as many positions as possible. Those fightings lasted for almost 2 years. A total of 16 UN member nations dispatched their ground troops to the Korean battlefields to dispel the communist aggressors and maintain peace and security on the Korean peninsula. 5 other countries sent their medical teams. The United States sent the largest combat units, 1.2 million soldiers, its Forest Navy and Air Force, and the 7th Naval Fleet. The United Kingdom dispatched 56,000 ground troops and 17 naval vessels, including an aircraft carrier. Australia, 8,400 ground troops, 4 naval vessels, including an aircraft carrier, a squadron of fighter planes, and a flight of transport. Canada, 26,000 ground troops, a destroyer, and a flight of transport. The Netherlands, 5,300 ground troops and a destroyer. New Zealand, 3,700 ground troops and a frigate. France, 3,400 ground troops and a destroyer. Thailand, 6,400 ground troops, 7 frigates, and a squadron of transport. Turkey, 14,000 ground troops. The Philippines, 7,400 ground troops. Greece, 4,900 ground troops and a flight of transport. The Republic of South Africa, 800 ground troops and a flight of transport. Ethiopia, 3,500 ground troops. Colombia, 5,100 ground troops. Belgium 3,400 ground troops and a frigate. Luxembourg 80 ground troops. Five other countries sent their medical teams. Sweden sent 162 medicals. India 627. Denmark 630. Norway 623. And Italy 128. A total of over 1.35 million foreign soldiers from 16 countries all over the world, as crusaders of peace and freedom, fought for those universal values of mankind at the risk of their lives. The Korean War left over 57,000 young foreign soldiers killed, 115,000 wounded, and 6,900 missing or held captive. Those young martyrs gave their lives for their beliefs. They are real guardians of peace and freedom. We Koreans shall never forget their noble sacrifices. On July 27, 1953, the Armistice Agreement was signed to end the three-year Korean War. Under the Armistice, however, the two Koreas are technically at war. The Korean Peninsula is still divided. Koreans suffered from incurable injuries mentally and physically. The fratricidal war claimed 6 million precious lives of South and North Korean soldiers and innocent citizens. There were 200,000 war widows and 150,000 war orphans. Furthermore, more than 10 million Koreans were forced to be separated from their loving family members, especially after the Korean War. Three-fourths of the entire territory was devastated, causing tremendous damage. Overcoming such hardship, Koreans stand firm on their own feet. With renewed determination and hope for the bright future, Koreans have done all they could to rehabilitate the economy and to build a new prosperous nation. With the diligence and the sincerity, Koreans have achieved a phenomenal economic growth. The world has been watching with wonder. The Korean War and the 50 years thereafter. Thanks to the unconditional help of its allies, Korea was able to safeguard itself from the Communist invasion. Today, Korea is actively trying to join the United Nations peacekeeping efforts all around the world. So far, some 1,900 Korean soldiers have participated in their international activities in 6 regions, including Somalia and Angola. At present, Korean military personnel are working at East Timor as part of the UN peacekeeping effort. They are also supporting election process in the West Sahara, inspecting ceasefire in India, Pakistan, and Georgia, A total of 476 military men are now abroad for the peace and stability of the world. The Indo-Korean Summit, held around the 50th anniversary of the Korean War, gives us much food for thought. At the historic summit, held from the June 13th through the 15th, the two Koreas agreed that they would work together for the common prosperity of the Korean people by promoting inter-Korean reconciliation and cooperation. The talks served as a great stride toward national reunification, giving us much hope for our glorious future. Indeed, it is our hope that this nation will go beyond the territorial division and go toward a national reunification and ending the war to solidify peace and prosperity, thus paving the way to dismantle the Cold War structure on the Korean Peninsula. By settling permanent peace in this land, we will consecrate the noble sacrifice of those who gave their lives to defend this country during the Korean War. On the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the Korean War, we'd like to pay our highest tribute to those countries that helped us and further consolidate alliance with them.